I speak to a lot of property investors, and Rick has spoken to many thousands of property investors doing deals, and his mind is very active and creative when it comes to deal making and coming up with ideas on the spot. So I've experienced the fact that it is, between the two, very frustrating when I explain to people possibilities of how they could be more efficient, but they can't move. They're stuck within their own mindset and they have to do things the old way. And then anything that you say sounds like it's coming from outer space. It's just not in their realms of thinking, and so it's dismissed. And so I would like to assist. I give some ideas, but they just nod their head and go away and do whatever they're doing or drop the deal. So this is my question. I wanted to give it to you as well. What goes through your mind when determining whether you can see a profitable deal when traditional investors can't? That's my question 5 for you, Rick Otten.
What goes through my mind when I'm looking at a transaction or a deal, decide whether or not it's a profitable deal, and why is it that I can see things that traditional investors cannot? I think this has to go back to the school that we went to. For many, many traditional investors, they went to the school of read some books, read some course, goes to a network meeting to learn what everybody else has been doing, which was handed down from what everybody else has been doing, which was handed down from what everybody else has been doing since about 1677, statutes of fraud, when the Property Act was written under King Charles II. My background was a little bit different, starting in Dallas, Texas with $40,000 that I did not have, and I read, being married with a wife that says find a way to make money out of real estate or go and work at McDonald's at $2.19 an hour, I had to rethink. The advantage to that was I knew nothing about real estate, absolutely nothing at all. Therefore, I didn't know what you could do, didn't know what you couldn't do. I just started doing what I did, and everybody came on board, and it just made better business sense for so many people. So when I look at a transaction, I never look at it the way the traditional person would look at it, because usually there's 90% of things you can't do with that property if I look through those eyes. I have to turn the telescope around and look at it through the other end. So for instance, people might say, well, how can you make money in this property? It needs a refurb, a renovation. There's no profit in it. Once you pay for all the costs of the renovation, the refurb, you've got to get in, get out, make a profit. Well, that's absolutely true. The traditional sense is that I do the renovation. Well, what if I already pre-sell it and I get the person I've sold it to do the renovation at their expense? They'll do it for 1/3 the cost of what a regular contractor will do, and they'll do a 10 times better job quicker and faster. Therefore, I don't have that outgoing of money. I'm investing no money in the renovation, which therefore comes back in my pocket as pure profit. Another way I can do it is I'll look at a property where people say, well, it's only valued at this much money, and now it's only valued at this much money. By what market? By what market is it valued? The value of a property is what someone's prepared to pay. Many people sell properties for a cash price, but we know most people can't afford cash. I'm speaking to you right now from Asia, where most people sell properties for cash. There's no finance. I came in to change it, and I'm putting financing into Asian countries. And here's what's happening. Once I'm putting financing into Asian countries, not only do I go from 3.3 people being able to afford to buy it, or 3.3% out of the whole population of the world, I now make 80% of the world's population can buy it because it has financing attached. As soon as I bring financing attached to the table, the values of properties skyrocket, totally changing the value of a property. Everybody knows that once you add finance to a property, it'll make it easier for someone to buy, which means reducing the barriers to entry. The value of that property goes up because more people want it, prepared to pay more money, and people jump over. You've got one widget and 50 people want it. So therefore, when we assess market value, based on what? Because if we're looking on how it's sold and how it's traded, has a lot to do with changing market values. So what I can do quite often, I might get a property over here, and I'll suggest to the seller, would he like to make more money from this property than he was going to make by selling it to me? Sellers will always want to make more money from a property. All I have to do is restructure how this thing's transacted, massively increase the profits, share some of that back with the seller who sold it to me, probably have very little money, if at all, in the transaction. But it gets excited. The guy finds it easy to own his own home. The seller made more money than he was ever going to make, and I got a bucket load of money based on just what I know here. So how we buy and sell houses, my thinking is based on what I had to learn in the trenches, not what I read in a book. I want to tell you about one thing quickly. Many years ago, I taught a whole lot of people a whole lot of different strategies way to do things. And we all had to go to a special course for some licenses or something. And the lady read the book and she said, now when the buyer buys a house, he has to pay the stamp duty. That's not correct. The buyer's only liable for the stamp duty, but doesn't have to pay it. And all the people in the room that were with me, we'd have to pay the stamp duty. We just never did. We just understood we had to be liable for it, but we don't have to pay it. It was just a way of thinking, which the lady scratched her head. And it took her a while, but she was reading a book printed by somebody else, who printed by somebody else, who printed by somebody else, and no one stopped long enough to rethink the process.